Welcome back, it's Zion from Uke On Demand, and this week we're teaching Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride from the beloved Disney movie Lilo and Stitch. This arrangement works with both high G and low G ukuleles. We're going to go over the first two bars of the song in this video, but you can get the full tutorial and all the tabs by becoming a member at ukeondemand.com. So the first section of the song, of course, goes like this. And so on. To play that section, we're going to be starting out in an F chord, which is just your index finger on the first fret of the E string and your middle finger on the second fret of the G. And we're going to strum that chord once. Pick the first fret of E twice. Your index finger is already there, so you can just simply leave the chord on. You're going to pick that twice. And then pick the second fret of C. Now, given how fast this song is, I like to use a hammer-on for this section. Like that. If you're not sure what a hammer-on is or how to play them, we do have a tutorial on them in our techniques library at ukeondemand.com. But whichever way, you can hammer on or just simply pick it again. Moving forward, we're going to pick the first fret of E again. So you want to just go ahead and leave that index finger there on the entire time. Open C string, open A string. Now a quick little chord. If this chord is a bit tricky for you to play with the pace of the song, I'm going to show you a way to simplify it in just a second. But either way, here as it's written, you're going to make it what you're probably a G chord, but you're not going to play the whole G chord. You're just going to play the top three strings. So that's the open G, second fret of C, third fret of E. And then once we play that very quick chord, we're just going to drop back down to first fret E. Now, if it's a bit difficult for you to play that chord with how fast this song is, you can just pick the G note. So you can just pick the third fret of E. And that way you don't have to get your other finger on the fretboard and strum. And if you're using, and that's third fret of E is where you can get that G4 note you're looking for on both high G and low G tuning. If you're using a high G ukulele, however, you can just simply pick the open G string if you wanted to substitute one note for that chord. So whichever way you play it, after that, we're immediately going to go to the first fret of E and stay in there for quite a while. So we, of course, pick that one more time on measure 1. Moving into measure 2, we've got a lot of notes coming here on right here. We're going to pick the open C string with the first fret of E, and then pick the first fret of E 3 more times in a row. Now, to keep up with this song, I sometimes, instead of picking each note individually like that with one finger, I'll just go back and forth with my index finger like that, because it's easier to go. I'll give you a side angle. It's easier to get notes out really fast by just moving your hand up and down rather than have to pick each note individually. Whichever way you do it, the next note we're going to pick is the second fret of C, followed, of course, by the first fret of E again, open C, open A, third fret of E, and first fret of E. We're going to pause there before going into the second half of this bar. Let's go back to the beginning and play these first two measures together very slowly. So starting with that F chord shape. Now, we pause there because the next two measures are exactly the same as the first. So you've already learned how to play the entirety of bar 1. So let's just go through it, starting from the beginning of measure 3. You already know how to play it. We'll just go to the end. that's how to play the first bar. And that's just the musical intro before we start getting into the lyrics. Going into bar 2, however, is when we get into at least the English section of the lyrics. And we're going to start out again in an F chord, but it's going to look a little bit different than the F chord we played the first time. So it's still going to have that basic F chord shape, but you're also going to add your ring finger to the 3rd fret of the A. So it'll be 2nd, open, 1st, 3rd. Just so you can hear how this section goes, I'll play through it one more time, nice and slow. And that's the first measure. To play that part, we're in that F chord shape, and we're going to strum once all the way. Leaving the chord there, pick the 3rd fret of A 3 times. Your ring finger's already there. And strum once. You can pull off with your ring finger to the open A. Again, if we have a tutorial on pull-offs in our techniques library at ukeondemand.com. And after you pull off to that open A string, we're going to come up to a G minor chord, but it's not going to look like the G minor you're probably used to down here. Instead, it's going to be up here at the 5th fret. And you're going to be making the shape that you're probably associate with the E minor chord down here, but we're just going to be starting it at the 5th fret. So it'll be the 5th fret of A with the index finger, 6th fret of E with the middle finger, and ring finger will get the 7th fret of C. And we strum that once. Going into the second measure now, we're going to drop down to a regular F chord, so the one we played at the very beginning of the song. And this measure will, again, go like this. And to do that part, again, just strum down once. And we're going to, after we strum down, we're going to immediately pick the open A string. So it'll sound like this. And then we have another little grouping of 2. We're going to pick the open A string again, immediately followed by the 3rd fret of E. And of course, if you're in a high G ukulele, anytime you see that 3rd fret of E, you can substitute it for the open G. Only if you're in a high G ukulele. If it's the low G, then it's going to be an octave lower and it'll just throw off the song. So either way, we're going to keep going forward and pick the 1st fret of E. Pick the 1st fret of E again, but this time with the open C string. 1st fret of E twice more. So now that you've learned both these measures on the screen, let's go back to the beginning of this bar and play through it together very slowly. Starting with the F chord, 3rd fret of, with the ring finger on 3rd fret of A. And we can go one more time, even slower than that. And that's how to play the first part of Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride. To get the entire tutorial and all the tabs, you can become a member at ukeondemand.com, and make sure to subscribe below so you don't miss our upcoming Fingerstyle songs. We'll see you next time.